ready.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order at 6:03, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
The republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty, justice for all.
Justice for all. Interesting.
Yeah, we might get the hang of that eventually. Do we have any adjustments? I see none.
No adjustments.
Approval of minutes. I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as listed in the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Drew, we have a second. All in favor. We have to do this by roll call. I almost forgot that. Kendra, how do you vote? Emily?
Approve.
Jonathan?
Approved.
John?
Approved.
And I will approve as well.
I just want to jump in on those minutes, Dawn. At our last meeting on April 6th, that's when the school committee approved the distance learning plan. So what I'll do now is send the minutes of those meetings to the Department of Education, because that was a requirement that they had by waiving the end of the school year piece. They just, the requirement was that we need to send them minutes of our school committee meeting where a distance learning plan was approved.
Okay, good to know. Thanks, Matt. Next section we have is public comments. So we have a few people floating on. Anybody that was on to make a public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to communications. Mr. Nelson, I see none. Any popped up or?
Nope.
Okay, then we'll go to committee reports. Construction updates. Mr. Nelson.
Sure. Okay, so first off, I'll start with an update on the Sanford High School Sanford Regional Technical Center project. The contractor Hutter has accomplished more work on the punch list. We continue to chip away at that. We do still have some items that do remain to be addressed. We did have a conference call since our last school committee meeting on April 16th with the contractor and the architect to review the outstanding items and the schedule to complete them. It's challenging right now to get a defined schedule for the completion with the different subcontractors and with COVID-19. But we do have items that are being addressed. We have about 100 items that remain on the list of varying trades. Our architect, LaValle Brenzinger, will back check items as soon as the contractor documents a significant amount has been accomplished. This morning, Athletic Director Gordy Sauls and Assistant Facilities Director Rob Welch and Principal Matt Peterman and I were out on Alumni Field. We were there with people from Shaw Brothers, as well as Sebago Technics, as well as the company that put in the artificial turf and the track to look at the work that had been done there. We did identify some areas for the work. There were a couple places where it felt like it was not filled in where it needed to, and there was also a few connection issues with the turf. I want to thank Gordy for all of his work in looking at that. We did meet with them today, and everyone agreed that there was still some work to be finished with that, and everyone agreed on that, and they'll be scheduling a time where they'll be coming back to finish that, and then once again we will do another observation as we're coming back to be able to look at that. Electrical trades are planning to be on site in the next 2 weeks. HVAC trades have been on site this week, and the siding trades are wrapping up their corrections to the exterior siding. Rob Welch, our Assistant Facilities Director, is doing a real good job of documenting the known issues that we have with our controls and the HVAC systems. And we're going to send that off to the contractors and the design team for further review, and also to ensure that those items are addressed. One thing also is we've requested some further training on the lighting controls. That is kind of due with Connor's departure and bringing Rob in place. We are looking into if there's any costs associated with that added training, given that the contractual obligations for the training have been met, but it's our hope that we're going to be able to do that so that we can continue to help in that situation. So that's the update for the high school technical center, as well as alumni stadium field and track. Are there any questions on that?
I'm not hearing any. Let's move on to elementary.
We'll move on to elementary. We had a core building committee via Zoom back on April 15th. I'll start with our update on the construction progress at Margaret Chase Smith. We had a construction meeting on April 14th. Our next construction meeting is going to be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The classroom additions are still being completed. Right now, we are hope that we can be able to move furniture into those new classrooms by the end of this week. I want to thank Ty Bryant and our custodians. They were able to come back, and the storage stuff that we had in the Connex boxes on site at MCS, we were able to unload 4 of those and store that in the gym. That was done primarily so that our furniture consultants, who have been working really hard going around the district identifying all of the different furniture that will be coming, also wanted to see what we had in that Connex boxes so that we can make sure that any purchases that we are making are ones that are absolutely necessary for that, with that. We have asked the contractor to provide an expected completion date. Right now, they are looking at that date somewhere in the middle of July, middle of July, possibly to the end of July. The gym is having millwork trim installed around the stage. The contractor is awaiting the gym equipment from a factory that was closed due to COVID-19. With that, the contractor hopes to start installing the floor at the end of this week. And that's why we're looking to try to get those things we're storing in the gym to those classrooms by the end of this week. The cafeteria is nearing completion. The painting is complete, and they are preparing for finished flooring. In the kitchen, the remainder of the kitchen equipment is being installed and connected. The 2 front classroom wings are being completed with final finishes being installed. The center admin area has the drywall installed. Shaw Brothers is back on site, rough grading, preparing the play field, paving the sidewalk paths. With that, we did, Chuck Potter and Ty Bryant met with Shaw Brothers today to coordinate the playgrounds, where those will be located. We did have some of the playground equipment, which is old and crumbling. So we are going to have to look at replacing some of that equipment. Ty is looking at equipment that he has up in the storage area, the maintenance area. We also may have to look at reaching out to Legacy as well, as we're starting to get some prices on that so that we can make sure we have 2 playgrounds, one for the younger pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and another one for the older kids for that. Metal siding is being installed on the limited areas that are not brick. We do have issued a change order to accept the labor and material only for items associated with the contractor's delay claims for that. The delay claim negotiations continue. Harriman issued a letter last week because PC Construction has submitted a delay claim of 66 days for a total of $679,000. Harriman, the architect, reviewed the history and the documents, and then they offered the following items for negotiation on behalf of the Sanford School Department, the Department of Education, and the ongoing settlement negotiations. Harriman's recommending accepting a 17-day delay for the asbestos abatement. The cost for that will be $65,276.60. Also, accepting a revised change order based on the move-in date of May 1st. Consider a 2-day delay for the Impact 2 Column 7 line for a cost of $7,679, and also a 5-day delay for the infill framing at a cost of $19,199. And then also looking at a waiver for the school department for a portion of the claim for the liquidated damages for contractor delay. So for us, we have, upon our legal counsel advice, we responded to PC's delay claim and Harriman's findings, saying that the school department and the Department of Education would approve a change order that would extend the deadline for substantial completion by 24 days. So that would move it to May 9th. And then we also would increase the contract price by $92,155.20 and accept the revised credit for a move-in date of May 1st. So as you can see, the delay claim, we are still very far apart. PC Construction has it at $679,000. We have it at $92,155. We had a meeting this afternoon, and that's where it was mainly just clarifying the letter with Harriman's response to PC's letter, and also the letter that the Sanford School Department also issued. So right now the plan is it's back in PC's court. They will be reviewing that so that they can also now have a response for that. The intent for us obviously is to avoid arbitration, but there remains a significant divide between their claim and what we can support as reasonable based on the contract. And as I said, we do have another construction meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Ralph Blake, former clerk of the works who was out of medical, has returned and has been on both sites doing the clerk work full time. So that's a lot of information for MCS. Are there any questions on the MCS construction report? All right, I'll move ahead to the converted middle school. Here's the update there. I think I'm happy to announce that there have been some staff changes at Structure Tone. The project manager has been replaced, and the project superintendents have also been replaced. This has gone on for a couple weeks, and we're encouraged. So far, it appears to be a good transition. It's still early, but it's going to need some time for these new people to get caught up to speed. But so far, the relationship between the parties has only improved. They have made several offerings of gathering the needed field data and clarification that the project is in the right direction. We had a construction meeting last Thursday. They're not in a position to provide a full schedule yet, but they are working on it. They did acknowledge that there were a lot of correction at the site that needed to be completed to bring the project into alignment. The school department, the Department of Ed, and the architect continue to pressure the contractor to provide a full schedule for planning and accountability. The contractor is meeting with every subcontractor to identify any needs or answers that were not received under the previous leadership. And those discussions with the subs will allow the contractor to plan out the remainder and the rest of the schedule. As for the latest progress on the site, I'm happy to report that we're making better progress than we've probably seen in the last several months. The flooring installation on the second floor is nearing the end. The previous tile and flooring subcontractor has left the site, but there's a reputable subcontractor has taken their place. Paul White subcontractor is replacing the wall tile bathrooms that were poorly placed on the walls, as well as finishing some flooring tasks. The millwork continues to be installed. The gym ceilings are in place. The cafeteria ceiling grid's been installed. There have been some more chalkboards that interfere with the new work that have been identified and may need some abatement. This was not properly coordinated by the previous leadership and the contractor and needs to be addressed. Ceilings in the multi-purpose room have been painted and the steel correction at the kitchen have been completed, and under slab rough has been completed, and the slabs are to be poured in the near future. We're hoping to get second floor inspections scheduled with the city this week. And that is right now the update on the converted middle school project. We continue right now to also look at the delay claims that they've made in reference to the cleaning cost claims that we've made, as we are trying to narrow that gap and work that out before our scheduled mediation date, which is at the end of June. Any questions on the converted middle school project?
Yes, Matt. I would say too, looking at those daily reports, it seems like a significant positive change since the change in leadership there. It seems like a lot more action than we've seen in a long time. I am still getting questions from people though, like, do you really think it's going to open in the fall? I'm becoming more optimistic. Is that something you share?
Yeah, I do with a qualifier. I have, like you say, we've seen a lot of progress that's been able to happen. We'll know better after their next meeting when we can get that schedule after talking with the subs. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic for that.
Okay, does that wrap up the construction stuff, Matt?
It does, yep.
Okay, next on the agenda, we had the Performing Arts Committee update from Emily. I can't imagine you have much to share. Do you have anything, Emily?
Yeah, not too much. Brett is diligently working on rescheduling, issuing refunds if they're requested. He's still working on some virtual school performances. We did a lot of brainstorming on what we could offer for live video space for ceremonies. He's been participating in weekly Zoom meetings with area New England presenters. And we talked at length about honoring our current sponsors, for this show season that obviously was disrupted. So we had a pretty productive meeting. We meet again on May 4th at 3:15 via Zoom.
Excellent. Thanks, Emily. Then we have a WSSR Advisory Committee update. We had a Zoom meeting last week, and it was very well attended and encouraging. And I'll let Kendra actually run through some details.
Well, I was encouraged this past week. Ian Housel, and Sarah, you can jump in at any time, but Ian Housel, the Community Development Director, has been working with Sarah and doing things like this meeting or all kinds of activities to make sure that information is being put out to the public in a variety of ways. And I don't know if he planned on that, but I made him part of the committee, whether he likes it or not. but he's got a really great background in PEG channels. So I think we're working pretty collaboratively between the city and the schools. We're still working on what our vision is for what WSSR should be and how it should function. Lots of ideas and comments in the meeting. So there's some very, I would say the group is very engaged, and Ian has set up for the next 5 Wednesdays, meetings at 2:30 via Zoom. So that's really helpful so we don't lose momentum on it. But there's a lot to look at, but I feel like we're starting to make some real progress. Sarah, is there anything you would say to that? No.
Sarah's just listening in. I'd agree though, Kendra. I think there's a lot of energy behind it. It's great having the city, jumping on board. Of course, Ann was there and Bob Stackpole. And then Ian sounds like he's going to be a huge asset. He's got a great experience. So we'll keep plugging away with that.
Well, the other thing I would say too is kudos to Sarah. I think in the last month, Sarah has done a tremendous amount of work and made a lot of progress in many areas. So it's really nice to see what's happening, and the time could not be more relevant than it is right now. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Kendra, this is Jonathan. I have to kudos to the notes. It was an excellent report on the committee. I was really excited to read that. And I would agree that having Ian on the committee, I consider Ian really the assistant city manager. He's got some clout. And having Bob and Ann on there too, I think Sarah should be really excited because now we've got some horsepower. As you said, Kendra, it couldn't come at a better time. So it is the community communication forum, or it will be, and I think we'll get far more momentum now than we've ever had. So I'm really excited about that.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, so next we're moving on to the superintendent's report. So we have the student reps first. So Natalie, why don't we start out with you? How's distance learning working for you?
It's been working pretty well for me. I think throughout the students there is a lack of motivation, but I've been keeping up on everything. I think the classes are not easier, but there's less work to them. I'm taking classes like physics, so it's pretty hard to learn over a computer, but we've been getting the hang of it. So
cool. You didn't have anything formally prepared?
No,
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Ariel, would you like to make any comments?
I agree with Natalie about the whole, everything is kind of wonky. Like for me, this is probably our 6th or 7th week, and definitely in the beginning it started out pretty rough, but as time went by, you kind of figure out ways to make it kind of work for you. But I think what made it even better was a lot of the teachers, they figured out ways to kind of help students and respond fast in a way that they're able to kind of get that still in school feeling while not being in school. It is that I still have physics with Natalie and stuff like that is definitely harder because it's new concepts that we don't really know, but we do our Zoom meetings or Google Meets and stuff like that, and that really helps. And I feel like even being a senior, it's even harder because it's like when you're in school, being a senior, you're already losing that motivation because you're almost to the end and now you're home. So it's just even worse because it's well, I'm home and I'm about to graduate, so why even bother? There's a lot of stuff, but I don't know. I feel like there's still a lot of energy around, even with graduation ideas from Sir Peterman and even Techno. We had like a Zoom meeting with the senior class about that and bouncing ideas around, and surveys were sent out and stuff like that. And then we had the senior class, they're doing the Sanford round where they're posting all the senior, the seniors that submit a photo and the plans for college and stuff like that. So stuff like that's very positive and still keeps you very active within, like, as if you were in school and stuff like that. And I feel like the whole world is kind of understanding that there's a lot going on right now with even deadlines, some deadlines getting pushed back, like scholarships and stuff like that. So that also helps. And I know my brother, he's kind of enjoying this, getting to wake up whenever, unless he has to Zoom meet with his teacher, which he looks forward to, and with his friends, you know, hang out and have a good time. That's how it's
Sure.
going.
Cool. Hey, thanks. It was a little, your microphone's a little, so it's kind of hard to hear some of it, Ariel, but I think we all caught most of it. Yeah, it's a little weird with the seniors. I know you guys, my daughter's going through the same thing, but it's nice that there's a lot of virtual stuff going on out there to recognize you guys and try to make it somewhat normal. Juliana, do you have anything?
Yes, actually. So the beginning was kind of difficult because some of my teachers didn't really understand how to use Google Classroom because they were so used to a real classroom. And in that way, it was kind of difficult at first. But as the weeks progressed, we did have like more direction through Google Classroom and different other sites and stuff. And it's been really, they've been really lenient on work, which is good. But they're also calling home if you don't have all your work in, things like that. But deadlines are pushed, and it just makes it a lot more easier. So I think it's good, but it's definitely not better than an actual classroom.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's definitely been a learning process. And actually, Sanford's been way ahead of a lot of other districts. So you've got that. And, you know, the teachers are trying. A lot of them are trying to figure out the technology too. So, but I agree. Yeah, you can't really replace the traditional classroom with virtual learning. It's just not the same thing. But we're doing the best we can. Well, hey, thanks for the update. I'm sure we could get some input from you guys later on if something else pops up.
I have a general question, Dawn, for the students. And I just really, this is what's on my mind a lot, and I'm worried more about the emotional well-being of the students, the high school students. I think this whole situation is especially hard on adolescents and young adults. Are you hearing anything? Are people feeling like they're getting the support they need or know where to get the support they need?
Okay, currently I think I don't know about getting the support they need, but I know there's a lot of, I know your juniors are really upset about prom being canceled, and you get all the stuff that is being canceled. Your seniors are pretty upset about some stuff. And I mean like postponed or whatever's gonna happen. I think there's definitely some negatives towards that, but there's been some real positives. I don't know if you guys heard, but Hariel was trying to talk about how this, our class officers for seniors, they ended up making a Facebook page and an Instagram page showing the schools that the students are going to and one of their senior pictures and their future plans. So there's positive stuff going around and making like people happy. Like I know that made me happy, but I don't know about if they're getting the support. Like, because I know it's probably hard for some people, especially in other scenarios.
Do you feel like students who really need that extra support know how to get it?
I don't think there's been anything. I haven't heard anything about that, and I don't think any of the people that like I go to school and I talk to know anything about any type of support. But I don't really know about that.
Okay.
Hariel or Juliana, anything from you guys?
The one thing I will say is that I know with a lot of kids, if they're struggling in their classes like really badly, then I know Spanish counselors are open for having conversations about that and seeing what they could do. Either if it's like telling them to get one-on-one conversations with their teachers, or maybe possibly if that's a better option to maybe not be taking that class anymore and stuff like that. Obviously, you don't want kids just dropping classes left, right, and center, but I know they've been working a lot with students and stuff like that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's, one of the things that's tough is the kids that are disconnected. The information's out there, but if the kid's not engaged, they're not getting that information on how to get connected. So,
and John, I just wanted to mention that I did have our opportunity. I meet with the school counselors across the district every Monday, and the school counselors are available, and they have been reaching out to students, and students have been reaching out to them as well. So I just urge, if any student is having difficulty, or if anybody hears of any student having difficulty, that the counselors are available for support as needed as well.
Yeah,
so hey, Steve, just real quick, if somebody just calls the school, is that the best way to get in touch with a counselor, or via email, or what's the best avenue?
I'd say the best avenue to get a hold of the counselors at the school is to email.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, I don't know the proper Zoom school board meeting protocol.
Just jump right in, Beth. Just jump right in.
Beth Letourneau, Director of Counseling at the high school. So just as an FYI, students at the high school are getting a weekly email every week for the past 7 weeks from their school counselor. Every week for the past 7 weeks, parents and guardians are also getting a weekly email. I know there's a couple of high school parents on the school board, so they're enjoying our weekly emails. So we've also put out the availability of our school social worker, Gail Fallon. So there's lots and lots of resources for kids. I do know that not a lot of kids read their school email. Can I get an amen from my high school people? And so we are definitely looking at finding some other ways to reach kids. One is TikTok, which is a personal Mrs. Letourneau favorite, as a way of reaching kids and speaking at their level and where they're getting information to be able to get more kids to reach out, to be able to know where to go for info. It is hard. We're definitely getting a lot of kids coming in virtually, having Zoom meetings with counselors, but also doing our best to reach kids in other ways. So TikTok, look out for next week when we start sending some TikTok videos out live. And my children that have already attended this meeting may also make a appearance, I have a feeling.
Nice, thanks, Beth. Well, it's probably a good segue into the next section, the COVID-19 update from Mr. Nelson, because I'm sure you got some of this stuff in there, right, Matt?
Yeah, we do have on our webpage, we do have a resource page that we put together for COVID-19. We were able to, it's the first thing that pops up right when you get redirected for anything on that. And one of the things on my to-do list is to always make sure that we can get that link out to people, because there's a lot of good information there that I think will help people, especially focus on the social emotional learning piece of it as well. At our last school committee meeting, we were just starting our 4th week of distance learning, and today we started our 7th week of distance learning. That's pretty amazing when you look at it for that. We have implemented the distance learning plan that really shifts to new learning. For that, it was great to hear our school committee, our student reps talk about their experiences. And, a takeaway that I get is, I think things are starting to find finding their groove a little bit with that. We did go and adjust our planned April vacation. We'd given a survey to staff as well as students and families. And what we decided to do last week, instead of taking the whole week off, we did continue distance learning for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 3 days. And we took 2 long weekends by taking Monday and Friday home off. A lot of that was to keep the momentum going that we had, as well as, you have the governor's stay healthy at home order in effect as well for that. So I continue to be proud of our students, teachers, and staff and families for all of their work. We did take some attendance profiles prior to last week. If you look at that, our 3 elementary schools, we really have 3 areas that we're looking at for attendance. The first one would be present and participating. The second one would be limited participation. And then the third category would be not participating at all. And so if you look at our elementary schools, they range between 90 and 94% of students present and participating. And there's another 4 to 7% that are the limited participating. And then as far as not participating at all, it's really just between 2 and 5% with that. Willard has less than 1%. So we're very proud of those numbers. The attendance and the engagement at the junior high school, we have 50% of the students are present and participating. We have another 40% with limited participating, and about 10% that are not participating at all. And then for the high school, we have about 40% of the students present and participating. We have about 35% of some limited participation. And then in regards to those not participating at all, that number jumps up to 25%. So I wanted to share those with people in terms of getting an idea of what's how engagement is going. That continues to be a challenge. There could be a lot of different reasons for students not being engaged. I think you'd see some of the top ones could be that they may not have connection. They may not have the internet. They also may have to be working. There may be some family structures that prevent that from happening with that. So we're working, I think I've been impressed with the high school in terms of their efforts in trying to reach out with those kids who are not connected to see what they can be able to do to identify any hurdles or any barriers and overcome that for it. Want to give kudos to our food service workers, along with our ed techs and custodians and Ledgmere Transportation Company. We have served over 55,000 meals since this started. That's averaging out now to about over 1,300 per day. If you remember, we deliver lunch and breakfast for the following day. So that's actually 2,600 meals per day. I know last week when we did we adjusted the schedule last week and only went Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Our food service workers put out 4 meals in one distribution. So that would be lunch for 2 days and breakfast for 2 days. I know last Thursday, when I checked in with them, they had, it's quite an operation. They had lunch for last Thursday, breakfast for Friday, lunch for Friday, and breakfast for this morning. And so that was over 5,400 meals just last Thursday alone for that. So kudos there. Also want to acknowledge that Full Plates, Full Potential, we were able to get a $1,000 grant from them. Holly was able to secure that. Holly Hartley and putting that towards some of that equipment we need to be able to do our deliveries with coolers. And we also received another $1,000 from People's Choice Credit Union in Saco from their Ending Hunger funds that we can put people who had, before we went to the distance learning, where there was any student debt, we can put that towards that with that. But right now, a lot of what's going on are people asking what the Sanford School Department's going to do regarding the school building's closure. For that, right now, our last day of school is Tuesday, June 9th for students. It'll be Friday, June 12th for faculty and staff. We've identified no new learning to happen after June 3rd. So I think that we'll be able to manage that in for that if we are still at distance learning. If you remember, shortly after our meeting last time, Maine's Commission of Education recommended that schools in the state begin planning for distance learning. That could extend through the end of the current school year. I have been hesitant to close the Sanford schools through the end of this academic year for a number of reasons. First and foremost, I know the burden that distance learning places on families and staff as we struggle to balance so many aspects of our busy lives during this demanding and stressful time. We also know, as our staff has gotten the hang of it and been impressive as far as providing learning opportunities for students each day, we know that the face-to-face interactions are what define our normal school days. They cannot be replaced through distance learning. And then finally, it's those end of the year celebrations that we have, whether it's everything for our seniors in terms of graduating or other students making transitions, or Lafayette School closing down, for example. There's a lot of those things that are important as well with that. I think the reality is it's highly unlikely that our students and staff will return to our school buildings this year. I know I've been holding out hope there may be an extraordinary change in the pandemic's impact in our community. You know, if we are going to be coming back, I would only consider safe options for providing an in-person closure to the school year, even if it was for a minimal amount of time. Governor Mills' stay healthy at home order expires at the end of this week. It looks like, as I was following along today with my update, that an extension seems likely because it seems warranted, and an announcement could come as early as tomorrow. Typically, we do not release any of the end of the year information until our return from April vacation with that. But I want to be clear, anything that we do, students and staff would only return when it is, if it has been deemed safe to do so. Please understand that the safety of our community is most important. Right now, I'd like to, we're obviously not going to be coming back to school next Monday. With that, I'll be ready to send something out to our community in the next day or two to be able to get that information out. I am still kind of at a point where I'm not quite ready to also clear the, cancel for the remainder of the school year. I'd like to wait and see about the governor's stay-at-home order being lifted. I'd like to see if the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in York County are declining, and the directive to physically distance has been removed, and limits on group gatherings have been lifted as well with that. So for me, that's an update that we've got a lot of more information coming now. We'll not be going back to school on May 4th, but I do think it might be worth waiting a little bit longer for a few more weeks at least before we cancel the remainder of the school year and go to distance learning for the remainder of the year. That being said, I'd also be very open to the school committee if there's any recommendations that they have. I know that we've got families and students that are wondering, and they are concerned. We've started to take a lot more phone calls, a lot more emails in terms of people knowing that our original checkpoint of this Friday is fast upon us, wondering what we're going to do.
Hey, Matt, I'll jump in. First of all, it's an incredibly hard decision to make, and I think you're doing a good job. I agree with your hesitance to just call it for the rest of the year. The end of the school year is a little over a month away now, so it would be nice if things lightened up and you could get the kids back to reconnect with them. I think that's hugely important. And I've also heard from a number of families that are appreciative of the fact that you didn't just call it for the rest of the year. And kind of what I've heard is that there's still that little bit of hope, that keeps the kids motivated a little bit, knowing that they might get back in, knowing that they might have to see their teacher face to face if they haven't been doing their homework. So, I'm for, like you said, it's not going to be next Monday. You kind of have to see what the governor's, how long she's going to extend the stay at home. You really can't bring the kids back into school before that's lifted. But probably push it out a couple weeks and then see where you're at there. I don't think there's an urgency to close it now. Give it a couple weeks, see what's happening, and go from there. But that's my viewpoint. Kendra, do you have anything to add?
Oh, I always do.
That's why I figured I'd go to you first, Kendra.
I really wish the students could get back in at the end of the year. None of us know that's today what's going to happen. I'm glad you've clarified that they'll at least be going next week, the 4th. I just think at some point soon, and maybe after you get more from the governor tomorrow or the next day, I think there'll be more information, just to set some kind of date to say, okay, this is when we're going to make the decision. Whether it's the end of the week of the 4th that, the final call is, because I think the uncertainty is playing a major role in the stress and anxiety all the way around right now. And so somewhere along the line, we need to make a decision sooner rather than later. The other thing is, if it ends up being distance learning for the rest of the year, is there any chance that maybe, you just mentioned June 3rd, which confused me, because if the last day is the 9th, what will they be doing? That's one question I have. But the other thing is, if they get out a little bit earlier doing distance learning, and it's possible to go back, can the going back be more of convening to reconnect with their teachers, their classmates, make up stuff, get a solid footing to go out the door and start the next year? So that's a lot, but that's what's on my mind.
Yeah, I agree, Kendra. I'm not at a point where I want to go week to week with this decision. I'm not sure that's right. I'd like to right now recommend that we extend distance learning at least up through Friday, May 15th right now. That would be able to allow us to get 3 more weeks with that, and also, as we talked about, get more information to be able to make sure whatever decision we're making is right. I do want to reiterate, I do think it's highly unlikely though, but I think that would be helpful. In terms of June 3rd, Kendra, no new learning happening after June 3rd. So that will be able to have people turn in assignments and finish and wrap up things. That may also include opportunities for kids who don't come back to have to maybe possibly turn in technology. It also could be having to come and pick up things, wrapping up the school year with that. That's what I meant by where we are with the June 3rd for it.
I do want to say that I do agree with not to come to a full conclusion, times certainly soon, but I think definitely in the next 2 weeks or something, there should be a kind of a conclusion. While I know it's stressful, I think there's it's really confusing on the end of being a student right now, because while I know that I think everyone's saying different things and it's become very confusing.
Thanks, Natalie. Jonathan.
Matt and Don, yeah. Look, I think it's K through 12 that you're talking about, teachers, parents, a community, a an economy, I would, and I'll continue to hold out to the last 5 days of school for students to get together and socialize, if nothing else. So I support, I know it's not an answer that people want, but I think people do want to get out and socialize, and I think the issue is bigger than all of us. So the governor and others in the country will make that decision for us. But I hope we don't pick a date anytime soon.
And one of the things that we've been doing too, getting back to what Kendra was asking, we realize that by us shifting to distance learning for 7 weeks now, and possibly for the remainder of the school year, that's going to have to force us to be able to make adjustments on the other end. There's going to be gaps in people's learning. And so if you look at it for why people are, we just can't come back to think it's just going to come back and be school as normal. We've got some gaps and things we have to address on our end in terms of what we're looking at for curriculum. And that's going to have to be some of the other challenges that we have. You'll notice that students are getting out before teachers are, because we want to be able to maximize that time to be able to help us be able to say, what's it going to look like when students do come back to school for that. If that's the remainder of this year, it's probably going to be a lot of wrap up and things that we've talked about, those social connections and face-to-face learning. But we've also going to have to make some adjustments going forward when we do come back to school, if that's next fall, so that we can make sure that we're adjusting in the way that we need to be able to meet our students where they're at.
Hey, Dawn?
Yeah, John.
You know, I've going from the last meeting that we had, and I fully agree with what Matt's saying, that chances are we're not going back to school. But I've actually polled probably 6 or 7 different families, parents, when they if they had children in the school, and they all, actually, I would say all of them, understood that chances are they're not coming back, that it's, you know, as Jonathan said, it's bigger than us. But they like the idea of a little bit of hope. The ones that I talked to, and again, it's a small sampling, it's probably 6, maybe 7 families. And they like the idea. So moving out to the 15th, I kind of like that. And again, at some point we do have to pull it, but I would be cautious and just get the message out that, you know, the best interest of the students, the best interest of the community is what we're trying to accomplish. But give some people a little bit of hope that they will have a chance maybe to come back to school. And the ones that I explained that to, they all really liked that idea. And again, it's small sampling. I can only say it was 6 or 7 families.
Oh, thanks, John. Emily, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, and then I just wanted to say that Amy Sivany would like to talk after. She's got her hand up, so.
Oh, thanks for pointing that out, Emily.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I guess I'm the minority in the group. I talk to my daughter all the time, and she's like, just pull the trigger. She's one of those very black and white students. She needs an end date in sight and to make her feel comfortable. So I'm the minority. But I wanted to shift gears for a little bit because Matt, you talked about K through 12, but has there been any momentum or update on how we're handling the technical side of the school?
Yeah, we continue. That's a huge challenge because as much as we're trying to replicate the CTE experience to go virtual and to go distance learning, those are huge challenges. That's one of the other reasons as we look at it in that rather than canceling outright right now, there's a part of me that if there's ways that we might be able to creatively bring back some of our CTE students to be able to get them to be able to get some of the practice that they need done to be able to go and take some of their certification exams. I think Emily and Kendra, I don't know if you were at the last meeting that we had with our CTE Advisory Council, but that was one thing that Kathy Sargent was mentioning was we're doing a really good job, but there's some areas where you just can't do that. You just can't replicate it in terms of the trade. And it's going to be hard for those kids when they have to come in and set up to take some of those tests, for example, and they just haven't had the actual practice time that they need.
Gotcha. Is that it, Emily? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I did understand that, it sounded like if we had the opportunity to get some of those, especially our seniors, back into the building, maybe for like a one-on-one or small group setting, for SRTC. So I do understand what, where you're coming from, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I think those are some of the things that we're looking at now, is trying to say, okay, if we are going to chance to come back to school, what's it going to look like? Because it could come back and look a heck of a lot differently. And while we're doing that, we're also starting to prepare for if we don't come back. What are the contingencies there with that? And a lot of that is falling on the high school in terms of that, especially for senior events, for example, in terms of what those are preparing for and planning for those for it. So that's the challenge that we have, is if we are coming back, we know it's not going to be business as usual. There's going to have to be some limitations, and we have to evaluate that to see, is that going to be stuff that we are able to pull off. And then you have the unique pieces like we mentioned about CTE. It could maybe be done in some small groups with the social distancing to be able to pull off some of those things, because ultimately through all of this, none of us want to put any of our kids at a disadvantage because of this, if there's anything that we do have with our opportunities to help with that.
Okay, so it sounds like, Matt, you're kind of wondering what our input was. Ultimately, it's your decision. That's why you get the big bucks. But it sounds like the majority of the school committee supports, the direction you want to go with this. I mean, I think it was a good point that we do need, there does have to be a final date where it's like, hey, call it, that's it. I think John made that point. So that's that. And then Amy, did you still want to say something?
Hi, everybody.
Oh, there you are. Hey.
Hey. I think you guys are all doing amazing. I said that in a letter that I had sent. I know some of you may know that I am one of the presidents or the president of two of the PTAs in town at Carl J. Lamb at the junior high. I know most of you know I have 5 kids, but I have 5 kids and they all have a lot of friends. And I actually, that everybody's coming, not that I know anything, but I think it's just because they're like, Amy, yay, they were not going back to school. I think everybody that I talked to that has reached out to me, PTA wise, or just my, kids' friends, they're all wishing that there was an endpoint. I think that I can totally appreciate always wanting a glimmer of hope, but I think that for anxieties and kind of making a plan, and I guess I speak for more the younger kids because I have my kids ages from 2 to 2nd to 8th grade. I'm looking more at the elementary levels as well, that, these parents need to make plans, those that are still working. And I just think that having an endpoint would be very helpful. And like I said, I appreciate everything, but it is something that I just keeps getting talked about. And I think as soon as you can make that decision, it would be great.
Well, great. Well, hey, thanks for the input, Amy. So that just kind of supports we gotta pull it and make a decision at some point fairly soon. So once you get some more info, Matt, I think that'll help. I think you can make a more educated decision. Kendra? Yep.
Me again. That just brings up for me too, when I hear people talking and feedback, again, this whole situation across our whole society and age groups is affecting people in different ways. And I think within the school system, it really is impacting the high school students in a very different way than it is grade school. I mean, and in the grade school, it's what Amy was just saying. You've got parents who are still working, doing their regular job from home with high expectations of the regular job, trying to fit in teaching their children, which is very different than I think the high school experience and the involvement I'm not saying the parents aren't involved and don't know what's going on, but they don't have to have their hands-on in the way the elementary parents do. So I think whatever decision gets made, I think we're looking at, yes, there has to be some kind of point where a decision gets made, but also, is there a way to factor in the differences between the high school and the grade school, and could there be different decisions for the grade levels? So
That's an interesting point, Kendra. Yeah. So with that, I had one other quick question, Matt, with the COVID update. Have we had any employees that have tested positive or anybody related with the schools?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, I was just wondering about that, so thanks for that. Anything else with the COVID update, or are you all good?
We also we do have our elementary principals are on the Zoom today, because they're going to talk about some of their experiences in terms of from their perspective on how distance learning's been going. And then next week we turn around with another meeting next Monday, and we plan there to have the secondary people there. So there's also more information that we can be getting from our principals, who have a perspective of being very close working with family, students, and our staff.
Okay, sounds good. Then we will power on through the agenda. We have our business administrator, Cheryl. Welcome to your first meeting. Unfortunately, it can't be in person.
No, it was. Last time I had to run out real quick last minute, so I wasn't able to be here. So sorry about that.
Yeah, and you don't have anything to report tonight, though?
No, I just have the financials, which is a little bit later in the agenda.
Okay, well, hey, welcome aboard, Cheryl.
Yep.
Okay, next we'll move on to Steve with an update for pre-K and kindergarten registration and screening. I know some of this I think I've seen on social media, people asking about, so important update. Do I have you, Steve? Did Steve leave? Am I going to have to handle this part?
I'm here.
Oh, I got nervous there, Steve. I was going to have to start making stuff up.
I have a couple updates for you tonight. The first one is about the elementary reconfiguration project. Last week, we did send out communication to all elementary parents in regards to the reconfiguration for the elementary schools for the 2021 school year and beyond. The communication outlined our goals of having 3 elementary schools with balanced enrollments and learner profiles. And if you remember, the 3 elementary schools we'll have next year are CGL with K-4, MCS K-4, and Willard grades 1 through 4. Staff has been working diligently to make this happen. Today, I met with Ledgmere to review the work we have previously done in regards to the school zones. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with the elementary principals where we're going to further talk about placement, but we're making some good progress. I'm scheduled to meet with the PTAs at the elementary schools coming up. This Thursday, I'm meeting with Lafayette at 6 p.m. And then next week on Tuesday, I'm meeting with CGL at 6 p.m. And Wednesday, I'll go over to Willard and meet with them at 5 p.m. With all that said, we're still on track to let parents know of school placement sometime towards the middle to the end of May. So we're making some good progress on that. Also last week, we sent some information out once again about kindergarten registration and pre-K registration. We've had some questions with the school closure in regards to how to make that happen. We are still accepting registrations. Kindergarten registrations, parents should call CGL. And for pre-K registrations, parents should call central office. Even though our buildings are closed, our phones are still working. So please make sure you call those numbers. Traditionally, we've done kindergarten screening at the end of the school year. We are currently exploring options if we're not able to make that happen. And it's looking like that option will be to make the screenings happen at the beginning of next year as school begins. And so we are planning for that. There's lots of adjustments we've had to make with COVID-19. And one of those adjustments we've had to make is with our teacher evaluation system, otherwise known as PEPG. You may remember there's several components to the teacher evaluation system. The PEPG steering committee met a few weeks ago, and the administrative team has provided feedback as well. We wanted to really honor the good work that has been done by staff and to help continue our staff grow. And so we have come to some determination of how we are going to evaluate staff, given that we've had to leave almost mid-year here. New teachers, we have done the components that we need to provide them with an evaluation that we think is fair. So anybody that has been with us for the last 3 years, we're going to wrap those evaluations up and give them a summative evaluation. Veteran staff that have had their evaluations done and the components have been completed, we're going to wrap those up. And then everybody else who has not been completed and we don't have the components completed, we're going to move those forward for the next year. So just a lot of balls up in the air, a lot of things that we have had to adjust with COVID-19, and staff evaluation is just one of them. So that's all I have for this evening. If you guys have any questions.
Any questions for Steve? Hearing none, we'll move on to Bernie. Assessments during COVID-19.
Or the lack thereof.
Even better.
So on April 7th, when the Commissioner of Education made a recommendation with the support of the governor for schools to plan to replace their classroom and group instruction with remote or distance learning for the remainder of the year, she also came out with the announcement that we were going to have some adjustments made with what the state's doing assessment-wide. So the main comprehensive assessment system has basically been frozen for the year. This includes the Empower Me assessment, which is in grades 3 through 8, the science assessment, which is administered to 5th graders, 8th graders, and 11th graders, all alternate assessments, and in addition to that, the SAT. Now, the SAT was used as part of our ESSA, which is the Elementary Secondary Schools Act Accountability Assessment System, and the MDOE has received a waiver exempting all schools from that, so that's good news. So what's going to happen is that the MDOE is not going to be requiring nor offering the SAT to this year's third-year high school students. The first offering for an SAT, if all goes well, will be September 26th in the fall. So that's the first offering. The Maine Department of Education is currently not administering any of those statewide summative assessments that I've mentioned, and all assessment windows are closed, in addition to, as I mentioned earlier, the special considerations module. The MDOE, however, this opens up a door of opportunity because the Maine Department of Education now is inviting educators and school and administrative units to assist in what she's looking at as a redesign of a state assessment system that will authentically measure school success and student achievement in a more useful and meaningful way. And as soon as that door opens, we should jump on that opportunity to be a part of that. I think it would be very constructive and very informative for people in our district to be a part of that process. The Maine Department of Education did confirm that the SAT is not required for the admission, nor will it be required as a screener for any program at any Maine college or university. And in addition, the Maine Department of Education is hearing that colleges and universities across the country are following suit. And their source for this information was NPR. So I found that interesting. So what the Maine Department of Education has reported in addition is that the University of Maine this year is using a pass-fail system, including the prerequisites for competitive and advanced courses. They recognize that students from the current cohort of applicants may also be receiving pass-fail grades, and they're developing innovative, as they say, and flexible admissions criteria and processes. The MDOE has heard from many school administrative districts and schools that they're using a variety of grading practices, and they're taking all of those into consideration. Some are just giving feedback on grades, some are giving pass-fail, some are including grades that only improve a student's overall performance or GPA. And so ultimately, the state has given the locals the decision and the determination, the ability to determine however they want to determine a system that holds harmless students for whom those conditions are outside of their control. We have a lot of students who have situations that are unusual in that they find themselves not having an environment at their homes where they can have the time to do the work that they would normally do in school. And that's certainly understandable. So there are also, as Steve was saying, PCD information. And the other thing too is that our local assessment system, as a result of this, has also been waived for the year. Generally, we give the NWE at the end of the year, NWEA. We give the end of unit math assessments in grades K through 8. We have the middle school that's trying to focus a great deal right now on social and emotional learning. And so what they're doing is they're trying to temper what they're doing with their work. And we also know that there isn't any, we have to plan now ahead. We have to have a strategic action plan moving forward in the fall, because we know that there are going to be gaps that have been exacerbated by this COVID virus and the closures of schools for those children who haven't had the opportunities that other students may have had. So that gap that we've always had has now grown, or we anticipate that it will grow larger. So that's something to take into consideration as we move ahead. And that's it.
That's it, Bernie. Thanks. It's very interesting. I think, like with a lot of things for this time period, there's going to be a asterisk next to a number of kids' education history. So
I think it'll say
very the SAT thing I find very interesting. I hadn't heard that, because I was going to ask you about that for the juniors, because I know a number of people are concerned about that.
They're waiving it, and the next time it'll be administered, it'll be while they're in their senior year, and it'll be September 26th is the first date that they're offering it.
Yeah, interesting.
So is that going to be like, if we were you guys, I'm sorry, so when I was a junior, I took it like in April. Will that be like they'll just take it in September at the school, or are they going to have to seek it on their own?
My understanding is that they'll be able to take it at the school.
Okay.
Good question, Natalie. Any other questions for Bernie from anybody? All set. I see the next item we had was special ed with Stacy, but I don't see her on the list.
No, she pinched her sciatic nerve, so she is down. So we're hoping to have her next week.
Okay, so that'll get moved. So then we're going into the principals. Distance learning updates. Let's start with Sherry Barron from CJL.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hi. So I just have been talking with my staff, and just to be sure to represent everybody's voices as best I could, I did send out a very brief survey to them. And what I have ready to present for you tonight is what they think is going well and what their challenges are for distance learning right now. And overall, there's just a huge feeling that the home and school connection couldn't be more important. And it's just really spotlighted or highlighted through all of this that we're going through right now. We have some fantastic families, great parents, students, colleagues, their staff. They're all trying their very best, and we're all feeling quite validated in our efforts lately. We wanted to say thank you as a staff to Ledgmere and Food Service and our ed techs and Sanford's backpack program and their volunteers for keeping our students fed throughout all of this, because we know that learning can't happen on hungry bellies. And so we're really appreciative of that. Our technology, all of our students have one-on-one iPads. We have an awesome tech support team. We have a lot of platforms that are being used, such as Blooms or Dojos, Seesaw. Teachers are video recording their lessons. And we have many resources available to us using technology. And staff have really increased their professional development in the area of technology quite a bit on their own. We are receiving a lot of positive feedback from parents and from the staff, from staff to one another. The collegiality is really a positive light, and we appreciate the positive notes from the parents. We feel like we're building stronger relationships with increased communication with the families. While we miss our students, face to face, and nothing can replace that, having elementary students, we're having to speak to the families and the parents and caregivers much more often. And so we feel more connected to them. Staff and their students are settling into routines, and they're finding that they get the best engagement when their activities are light and fun. And so they're working really hard to keep things very interesting and new. And teachers have to be actors sometimes and put on songs and dances, and you'll see them parading around and just writing raps and just being, putting themselves out there and being really vulnerable with the potential of parents looking at their recordings and whatnot, but they're really showing up for us. We think that with the recorded lessons that retention is improving a little bit because students can play those videos back. We want to say thank you to the YMCA Y Care because they've been really helping our students whose parents are at work and helping those kids get onto their iPads and do schoolwork during the day amidst some of their fun that they're having together. And we want to say thank you to our students' siblings and their extended families, their grandparents, aunts and uncles, and caregivers too, because boy, does it take a village, and we couldn't do it without them. Our school couldn't be cleaner. We're very proud of our custodial staff. We are in great shape here. We do have attendance plans, as Matt had mentioned earlier, and when all else fails, we do result to home visits or paper packets being delivered or put into the mail too. So we've really increased our efforts to make sure that everybody's engaged. Some of the challenges are, our biggest one is we miss the kids so badly, and each other, our staff, we miss each other. A lot of notes came in from the staff about the students' engagement, and we're talking 0 to 3 kids per class on average, with having limited engagement. Most of the children are better than limited. We have quite a big variance from student to student or family to family, dependent upon working parents, their schedules, number of children in the homes, that kind of thing. But we're working hard with our counselors and our social workers and our teachers. Ed techs have been making phone calls. The communication has been wonderful. We are grateful for Atlantic Broadband and our other internet companies who are helping to provide free internet service to many children who did not have that before. That's been really helpful, but we still do have some without it. And so that is a challenge. We worry about the mental health and well-being of our students and our staff and our community. And so there's some worry and fear. A lot of that just comes with the increased changes, but I'd say if you listen to this school committee meeting tonight, you could see we're doing it. We're making it happen. For some staff, such as school counselors, and for parents who have students in multiple grades, they are having a hard time juggling all the various technological platforms that I had mentioned earlier. But again, we're getting through it together. And as Bernie had mentioned, assessment and giving feedback has been a challenge. Giving the feedback's not challenging, but grading and reporting has been challenging. And so we are leaning heavily on providing ongoing feedback, trying to keep that as positive as possible, trying to encourage the students to do their best and to keep coming day after day. And we have noted that in some cases, there's a great big increase in the work that the students are producing, and we wonder who's doing the work. If parents may be helping a little too much. And then in other cases, the quality and quantity has decreased quite a bit. So it's something staff is working on with parents and with students, just trying to get back to that normal level of work production that they had prior to this. So there's a whole accountability issue there that we are working on. But with the work that's been accomplished so far, I'd say that it's been frequent and ongoing, and we are doing our best to be responsive to the needs of our students and their families, placing utmost importance on everybody's safety and well-being and the well-being of our community. And so overall, while there's many challenges, I think that we have more to be grateful for and to highlight.
Great, thanks. Do we have any questions for Sherry? Anyone? Oh, good job.
Yeah, I saw Beth, you had your hand up.
No, I do. I don't have a question, but Sherry, I want to give a special shout out to Mrs. Gibberti, first grade. She is making me feel like not a total failure as a homeschool mother. and she is awesome and very timely in her responses. I love the Zooming and the lessons that we get. And I don't know if Mr. Nelson is giving out summer bonuses, but Mrs. Gibberti and myself should get one. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
I would like to add really quickly, right before this meeting began, I received a text message from our school counselor, Mrs. Scremen. She's been using Google, I think it's Google Phone or something like that. And she's been able to text message with parents. She's been texting with them. And right before this meeting started, we got our number down to 4 students that we have no connection with. So we're at 99% of our students that are responding now.
Wow, that's great to hear. That's one of the things I've been concerned with the distance learning. So it's nice to hear you're having numbers like that.
Yeah, that was exciting news.
Okay, thanks a lot. Let's move on to Susan Inman at Willard School. Susan, do I have you? She was here a minute ago.
Yeah, so she's here.
Oh yeah, did she drop off?
No, she's there, but her sound's not working.
Oh, maybe she's on mute.
Hey, Susan, are you mute? Oh, there she is, yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, it looks frozen.
Oh, that happened earlier today with the Zoom.
There we go. Can you hear us, Susan?
It may be because she's using headphones. Sometimes that acts it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you say you could text her, Bernie?
I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. We've been doing so well with the technology. She's probably halfway through her presentation already.
You might want to go to Sharon.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's jump on to Mrs. Remick with Lafayette School, and we'll come back to Susan. So, Mrs. Remick, are you there?
I am. I'm right here.
The floor is yours, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And seriously, I have to say that I pretty much could say copy to everything that Sherry has already said, because it has actually been a wonderful time in a way because of the ongoing connection that we're having with our families. Although some of them are feeling a bit overwhelmed with everything that is being offered, there are those of them that continue to say, thank you very much for everything that you're doing. Thank you very much for checking in with us. And thank you very much for all that's going on with the food service program, as well as with the packets that we're sending, because we have several families that don't have any internet connection, and therefore we have to send them packets of information each week to help with the learning. So that in and of itself has been a plus. The challenges are the same in the fact that we do wonder sometimes who's actually doing the work and how come things aren't quite as good as they were before. But I think as we go along with this, and as Sherry said, we get back to a more of a routine, we might find that we can figure out what's going on in that regard. So there's Sue. Anyway, and also I would just like to say that seriously, all of the staff, regular education, special education, the specialists, art, music, gym, Title I, gifted and talented, ELL, everybody is reaching out to these families. Everybody is offering things for our students to do. And there's just a wealth of things. Kristen Daly and Sue have organized a Fun Friday that's going to start on this coming Friday, which not only offers some special things, but also puts kids in touch with the guidance counselors and with the social emotional learning pieces, so that, you know, everybody, as Sherry said, is connected and helping to support these families as best we can. We also, technology, I can't believe all the things that teachers are getting into with the different platforms that they're using, and they're creating all of these YouTube videos for their students, as well as the staff at Carl Lam Lafayette, and I think even Willard have put out little messages to the students to let them know how much we truly, truly miss them. And everybody has truly stepped up to the plate, especially with the number of Zoom meetings that are required in getting all of this set up. The grade level leaders have to meet each week to do the planning, and then they have to share that with all of the grade level teachers, and then carry it out. And so it's been a lot of work. We have to really, really say that everybody could deserve a bonus this summer, seriously, but at the same time, it's what's made this be as successful as possible. It will never, ever replace the human contact that is such a big part of our educational system, because that human contact is truly what keeps kids involved and actually helps to catch some kids so that they don't get discouraged and leave us school early. So I just think we need to give a big round of applause to everyone, including the school board and everyone, for all of the support that they've given to this town.
Thanks, Sharon. Couldn't agree with you more. Any questions for Sharon from anybody? Oh, okay, thanks. I think we have Susan with us now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Sorry about that. I'm not going to duplicate what Sherry and Sharon said. I just want to give you little highlights on Willard. Of the 540 students we have with us this year, everybody has their devices. As of today, we have 17 students that receive paper packets. That's grades 1 through 4. Of the 17, 3 of them is one family. As Sharon mentioned, we're going to roll out Feel Good Friday this Friday, and that's to highlight all our specialists: phys ed, health, art, music, library, guidance, social workers. Just to, those our specialists got a little slower start at the elementary level than our middle school and high school. So we want to try to help the kids reconnect with them in a way. So Fridays are going to be a day where students will have that opportunity to pick activities and directly interact with those specialists and email them their outcomes and things like that. So we're looking forward to seeing how students and parents are going to react to that. Kristen Daly and I have been, it's really interesting to be a principal virtually. I'll tell you, it's my first experience. Hopefully it's my last one, but we have a ton of morning meetings going on. You can imagine with 28 classrooms, trying to attend all those. We don't do all those, but it's wonderful to sit in a morning meeting and see 22 little faces looking at you and, you know, asking you questions about when they're coming back and what's the school like without no one there. And we say it's kind of spooky, you know. So, and also we've been doing to connect with our kids too. On Wednesdays, we do this lunch bunch meeting with kids. We invite 5 kids a week, and we just ask them to come and have lunch with us and talk with us and see how they're doing and ask us some questions. So that's been really good. I think our biggest challenge at Willard, I think that's what I've heard all evening, is keeping the students consistently engaged and supporting parents. That's our biggest challenge right now, is how to do both, how to keep that hope in the children that we want to do as well. So that's been our biggest challenge at Willard. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Susan? Well, thank you all for the updates. I have to agree with, I think, pretty much what everybody said. The teachers, staff, everyone's done a phenomenal job adjusting to this. It's really unprecedented. You kind of put this whole distance learning model together on the fly, and I think everyone's doing a pretty good job with it. I have to agree with Sharon, though. I don't see how it could ever truly replace that human contact, having the kids in the classroom. So once again, that's kind of that push to maybe hopefully get them back in for a week or two at the end of the year, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we'll wrap up that section and let me get my agenda out, and we are moving on to new business. So this is Cheryl. Here's your chance for the financials. This is everyone's favorite part.
That's right.
See how exciting you make it sound.
I actually figured out how to use the mute button this time. It took me a second last time. So financials, you have it in the packet. I hate reading, but reading the whole thing, but I will add some extra stuff in there that is not in here. So I'll read through it a little bit and then also add some other stuff. General education and adult revenue is at 29.5 million, and the expense is at 35.7 million with a net expense of 6.2 million. I had a phone call today with all the business managers in the Department of Education, and right now there's no indication that the EPS will change for the rest of this year or next year, but then they are kind of concerned about fiscal year 2022, that it may change at that point, but they don't have any indication about how much or what or anything like that. But that was what came out of today's meeting this morning.
So Cheryl, just real quick to go off of that, because we're hearing about the state already talking about financial issues from COVID. So is that kind of the result of that? So they don't think they're going to change anything for next year, but that impact will hit us the year after.
That's what it's sounding like right now. At least that's what all indications are showing us, that because it's already a past budget, that they're not going to change the amount for next year.
Gotcha. They'll run a deficit that we will then have to make up the next year.
Right. So I'm not holding my breath, but I'm crossing my fingers that that's what happens.
Okay, thanks.
So we have 27 special revenue accounts that are active this year, with a combined revenue of 2.5 million and the combined expenses of 1.9 million for a $0.6 million net revenue. The capital funds, which are, we had a big update on that Matt did regarding all of the construction going on. Of course, you're going to have a lot more expense in that because we already got the money last year. So that's why that's at $15.9 million worth of expense. We currently have 3 enterprise funds where they have a total of 1.3 million in revenues and 1.2 million in expenses for a net income of 0.1 million. That's mostly the school nutrition, because the performing arts is slightly behind because and I think they're going to get a little further behind now that we don't have any productions going, but we will see how that all runs out. Then when we get down to the different sections of our expenses, salaries and benefits, we've spent 20.5 million. It's $599,000 over last year. But I have run an analysis on salaries, and I believe our salaries are going to come in less than 500,000 less than budget. So that's my prediction. I actually came slightly higher than that, but I'm going with 500,000. And so while I've been trying to figure out and get into the details, I'm explaining some of the stuff I have looked at, which is salaries is one of them. So you will see we have professional purchase services for 1.5, property services for 313,000, other purchase service at 1.9 million, supplies and energy at 1.2 million, and property maintenance at 281,000. I do believe I did an analysis on the utilities also, and I believe we're going to come in under budget for that also. So that's looking really good there too. Of course, debt I mean, it looks a lot worse than last year, but we knew that would happen because we had the new debt for all of the schools happening. For Article 10, most of that is the gain, the big increase, which I just talked about, is the debt. I lost my place here. Article 8, transportation, contributions of 1.4 million. You know, some of that has includes CIP in there. Total contributions of 2.9. Article 10, debt service, of course, we've already talked about that. And Article 11 is a small amount of 33,000. And so that brings us at 35 million in expenses so far this year. And any questions, not that I can probably answer them right off the fly, but if you have any questions, I can try to get them back to you if you need them, because I'm still learning and digging into all of these expenses.
Gotcha. Any questions for Cheryl on the expenses?
There's a lot of lines.
Yeah, I know. You have the reconciliation?
What?
John, I had a question. This is Jonathan.
Yep.
Cheryl, just, I was obviously concerned. The biggest piece of our budget is salary and benefits. So it just sounded like a little bit of, maybe a little lack of confidence in that number. And that's probably the most critical number. So hopefully we can dig a little deeper into that to make sure we're on target as to what you're saying.
Well, I'm actually saying 500,000, but my initial analysis is a much better savings than that. But I always err on the caution that something happens in between that I don't know about, because I'm still learning all the data. That's why I'm saying 500,000.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you have reconciliation numbers too, right?
Oh, yes. They were included in the packet. That's that was the first section I talked about, was the reconciliation. And the second part is more about the expenses of the general.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, then I will make the motion to accept the March 31st, 2020 expenses and reconciliation as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Rue. Any discussion? Nope. Then Kendra, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, so now we're on to old business. I see none. Resignations. Mr. Nelson, looks like we have one.
Yes, unfortunately we do. It is Scott Gray. If you remember at our last meeting, he was starting off in the maintenance. We were excited to bring Scott on, but he has decided to resign, that the position's not for him. Just wasn't what he was expecting. So I did accept his resignation.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And then we'll move on to appointments. Looks like you got a couple there.
Yeah, a couple. One, Melissa Melnick is going to be filling in for a grade 3 teacher going out on maternity leave here in scheduled for May 11th. And then also looking to bring back Pete Lavasser in a long-term substitute, PE substitute role that he's been in this year, continuing that in the next year. Pete's done a great job. Has been a great addition to the junior high.
Pete's great. We should keep him around as long as possible.
All right.
He's going on what, like the 4th generation of students that he's taught in Sanford, something like that?
Yep.
Staff transfers, I see none. Staff nominations.
Sure. Proud and pleased to nominate Kristen Daly as the assistant principal at Willard School. Kristen took that position on under some really challenging circumstances mid-year, if you remember. And Kristen has stepped in and done a wonderful job working with Susan Inman and the staff at Willard and the students. So I am very pleased and proud to recommend Kristen Daly to you, nominate her to you as the assistant principal for Willard, and that would be effective July 1st. And that would continue to be a school year only position plus the extra days, which is what is consistent with our budget process that we went through.
Okay, I will make the motion to approve the nomination as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Kendra. Any discussion from anyone? Okay, hearing none. Kendra, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
I think Jonathan's on like a 5-second delay. John?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, so that brings us to our next item on the agenda, the highlight of every meeting, policies.
Okay, tonight we have two policies and procedures that are for a second reading tonight. First one is policy ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment of school employees, and the accompanying procedure ACAB-R, employee discrimination and harassment complaint procedures. Drummond and Whitson recommended that schools update their employee discrimination and harassment policy and complaint procedures to include gender identity or expression as a protected class. In reviewing our policy, we also consulted with Maine School Management for guidance. Policy ACAB and procedure ACAB-R were last updated on March 21st, 2016. The updated policy and procedure addressed the need for grievance procedures to cover a wide range of discrimination claims, including gender identity or expression, not just sexual harassment as defined by Maine state law. The legal references were also updated for this policy. The second policy for a second read is policy AC, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, and affirmative action. The same guidelines that I explained above were applied to this policy. And we also updated the legal references to this procedure as well. And I recommend approval for these two policies and procedures.
Okay, I will make the motion to adopt policies ACAB, ACAB-R, AC, and AC-R as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Jonathan. Any discussion? Okay, Kendra, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Emily?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
John Rue?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, so that brings us to items for future agenda. So the school committee workshop regarding after-school meals and snacks. I know we were pushing this off, hoping to get to the point where we might be able to meet in person. Not sure if that's going to happen anytime in the immediate future. Matt, do you know if we have any sort of timeline on this? I know Anne had put this out there. And I don't know if there's any sort of like submission deadline or anything, because it was through like a program, right?
Steve, do you have more information on that? I don't think there's a deadline.
The school committee needs to make action by the end of this calendar year. So for us, the school calendar year. So that was by the end of June on this one.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So, you know, why don't we? I don't think we should put it on the agenda for next meeting, but I say we put it on the agenda for May 18th. Actually, no, we want this as a separate workshop, right?
Correct.
Gotcha. We should probably try to find some time between the meeting on the 4th and the meeting on the 18th to maybe squeeze a virtual workshop in. How does everybody feel about that? Sound like a plan?
We want to look at May 11th and keep it on a Monday.
Oh, yeah, we could.
I'll check with Ann to see if that works for her.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's put something out in email and we'll try to get this done and moving.
Yep.
Any other items for future agendas anybody would like to put out there? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to calendar announcements. We've got a meeting Monday, May 4th, 6 p.m., which will be a virtual meeting. And then our next meeting after that is Monday, May 18th, 6 p.m. We have that down as to be determined, so we'll see what happens with that. And with that, we are at adjournment. Would Mr. Rue, would you like to make the recommendation?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor? Wait, do I have to run through this? Kendra, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
There we go. I was gonna answer for you. John,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. So we are officially adjourned. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for taking the time, especially our student reps. I'm sure you got a lot of other more important stuff to do, but it's nice for you to jump on. Thanks. Everybody have a
Good night,
nice
everybody.
night. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.